Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Mo Samani, President of SOHO Business Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. Email continues to be a key marketing and lead generation tool for many businesses, both small and large. However, there are many challenges all businesses face, particularly on how to effectively generate positive results. Today's webinar, The Ins and Outs of Email Marketing, will provide you with key guidelines, best practices, and tips to help you improve your marketing and sales results. Our presenter is a content marketing expert guru. We are very pleased and privileged to have Aviva Ravinovich, the president of AR Communications. She lives, eats, breathes content marketing and has worked with many corporations to execute their content and email marketing strategies. Aviva, thank you so much for being with us today. I will let you take it from here.
Thanks so much, Mo. I'm really excited to be here today, and I feel really honored to be presenting to this group. As you all know, we're here to talk about the ins and outs of email marketing, but I want to kick this off by sharing a little story with you. Although our company writes for very large corporations, we are, like most of the people on this webinar, a small company. So when we get requests from small businesses to help, we're obviously inclined to do it. The challenge up until now is that we haven't been able to figure out how to do it cost effectively. I know what your budgets are like because they're a lot like our budgets. So the question was, how could we deliver value without it costing a lot of money? The answer for us was to team up with SOHO to create a series of reports and eBooks that include tips, tricks, and real-world examples you can use to develop compelling content to fuel your marketing programs. As I go through my presentation, I know some of you might have questions. If you do, I suggest you enter them in the chat box to the right of your screen, and if we have time at the end, we're going to read them out and answer as many as they can. So let's start with the main question, why are we talking about content? As I mentioned, our aim here is to give you tips for developing compelling marketing content. So why should we focus on content? The obvious answer is because it's what we do. Over the past 18 years since I established AR Communications, I've personally written, reviewed, and edited literally hundreds of business emails for dozens of major corporations. As a result, I've had ample opportunity to identify the best practices big companies use to succeed in this space, as well as to uncover opportunities for improvement. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. That said, there's a larger reason to focus on content as well, and it comes down to the latest wave sweeping the marketing world, which is content marketing. So there's no formal definition of content marketing, but the Content Marketing Institute puts a great structure around it by explaining that content marketing is a process for creating and distributing relevant and valuable content to attract, acquire, and engage a clearly defined target audience with the objective of driving profitable customer action. So how does that definition apply to email marketing? Let's take a look. First, content marketing is a process, which means it can't be random. From an email marketing perspective, that means you should be thinking about developing a framework for sharing your ideas with your customers, prospects, employees, or whoever else you need to communicate with. Second, content marketing is about creating and distributing content. The creating part is pretty obvious when we're talking about emails. It means you need to write them. The distributing part, though, is more interesting in that email is really only one distribution channel. To reach your target audiences, you want to communicate through a variety of channels, including digital, social, mobile, and offline. Third, content needs to be relevant and valuable. You'd imagine that this goes without saying, but you'd be wrong. So for instance, when it comes to email marketing, prospects typically make it clear that they don't want to be sold to. Despite that, many companies continue to send emails touting the amazingness of their products and services. Here's the thing. Your customers don't buy a bundle of features. They buy into your approach to solving their challenges. Email marketing, and in fact content marketing in general, is about uncovering those underlying challenges and giving your audience a reason to pay attention to you by creating information that responds to their needs. I'm going to talk about how to do that a little later in this call. Before we get there, though, let's look at the remaining elements of our content marketing definition and see how they apply to email marketing. So our fourth point is that effective content, including effective emails, empowers you to attract, acquire, and engage customers. This happens when your content stops being self-serving and looks to add value for your readers. Now recognize, you won't get these kind of results with every email you send. But as you refine your email marketing approach, you will begin to strengthen your relationships. And that ultimately leads to improved customer attraction and retention. That said, you can only do this once you have a clearly defined target audience. In content marketing, this is called a buyer persona. For our purposes, though, it's about deciding who you want to communicate with and targeting your emails to their various needs. I'm going to talk about this as well in more detail in a couple of minutes. Finally, with email marketing, as with any kind of marketing, you need to keep your objective in mind. According to our definition, that objective is to drive profitable customer action. So customer action has a lot of different definitions, from clicks and shares to calls and downloads. It could be attendance at events. It could be higher search results. All of these potential customer responses are what we call the call to action in an email. It's the request you make of your readers to take the next step. So while we're on the subject of calls to action, I want to point out that there's no magic here. A call to action is just an opportunity to ask your audience to do something specific. It could be call you, download a report, fill out a survey, sign up for a webinar, subscribe to your blog, I don't know, read an article or become a new customer, whatever it is. The trick is to make it sufficiently specific and totally risk-free. It also sometimes helps to create some urgency around it. So for instance, you might say, we're giving away only 5 free consultations. To claim yours, call me at this number by this date. Or, if you wait too long to act, your competitors will leave you in the dust. To secure your competitive advantage, email me at this email address by this date. So you might be wondering, how do you know if your call to action works? You track it to make sure you get the results you need. And if the results aren't as high as you want, you change it and you try again. That, by the way, is one of the real secrets of email marketing, the willingness to try and fail and try again until you hit on a formula for success. And that's why we say there isn't one tried and true method to succeed at email marketing. What works for one company won't work for another. Heck, what works 1 month sometimes stops working the next month. So you need to be willing to test and keep trying until you hit the formula that works for you. That should be good news for small businesses, by the way, because frankly, small businesses tend to be more willing than big companies to throw things against the wall and see if they stick. You're faster, you're more responsive, and you generally don't need complex software systems to test the effectiveness of an email campaign. All of that means you can adapt at the pace of business. Of course, what it doesn't mean is that you should be wasting your time in constant trial and error. So what I want to do in the remaining time we have is help you avoid some of the common pitfalls of email marketing and set you up with a template that heightens your odds of email marketing success. To make this as intuitive as possible, I've broken it down into 4 steps. Step 1 is know your audience. This goes back to the buyer persona I mentioned a few minutes ago, and it's the first step of writing anything at all. You simply cannot engage your readers if you don't speak directly to them. This may sound obvious, but it's often the central issue that turns an otherwise strong message into a weak email. Whether you're writing an email to invite people to attend an event, an email to ask people to download a report or sign up to your blog, or an unsolicited email to try to win new business, you need to gear your message to your readers. Let me give you a for instance. Let's say your email marketing goal is to generate new leads. In that case, you need to start by understanding who your leads are. Are you targeting business buyers or consumers? If it's business, what industry are they in? How big are they? What titles do your prospects hold? A message to a CEO, for example, should be different than a message to the head of IT. The same goes for a consumer audience. Are you targeting a specific demographic? What's their age and gender? Where do they live? How much money do they make? All these elements should dictate the way in which you write your emails, because an email targeted to a 65-year-old golfer is going to be different than an email to a 22-year-old yoga practitioner. That's what knowing your audience is all about. So once you know who you're talking to, you need to gear the message to your targets. This starts by asking one central question. Why should they care? Keep in mind that we live in a sophisticated consumer society where people know if you're trying to sell them something. If your audience gets the impression that you're in it for you and not for them, they'll delete before they even open your email. So ask yourself, why should your readers pay attention to your email? If you're targeting businesses, can you show them how to save money, how to reduce risk, how to improve operations or enhance productivity or make better decisions? If you're targeting consumers, Can you show them how to improve their health, how to strengthen their relationships, how to look and feel better, or how to save time and money? You need to identify those drivers at the outset, and you need to list them because they're a huge determinant of the ultimate impact your emails are going to have. All right, let's look at step 2. This is be strategic. I mean this literally, by the way, because emails are short and fast and easy to type while you're sitting at your desk finishing your morning donut. People approach them tactically. You figure you'll bang something off and hope it garners response, which begs the question, how's that working for you? If you want to improve the likelihood of having people open and respond to your emails, you need a strategy. That starts by deciding, 1, how many emails you need, and 2, when you should send them. So, how many emails do you need? Let me give you a clue. It's more than 1. Chances are you all know a thing or two about selling, so you know that your first communication is likely to be ignored, maybe even your second and third. To stack the odds in your favor, you need a series of emails for each initiative you launch. You want to know the magic number? Tough, there isn't one. This is one of those spots where trial and error comes in. I can tell you this, though. Sending at least 3 emails for each campaign is entirely realistic and may even be light. You'll want an initial touch email, a follow-up email, and a reminder email at the very least. Now, I know you're worried about spamming them, but people are busy, and failure to respond to your first email doesn't imply that they're not interested. It likely means that your email got lost in the mass of emails in their inbox. So don't be afraid to reach out several times. Okay, all that said, Canada recently introduced new legislation called the Canada Anti-Spam Law, which is affectionately known as CASL. Under CASL, businesses need to get express consent to send electronic messages, including emails and texts. Express consent means your recipients opted in to receive emails from you. The opt-in can be either verbal or in writing, but it's on you to prove that you obtained express consent if the regulators come calling. On the plus side, consent can be implied, but only in certain circumstances. So from my understanding, you're allowed to send commercial emails to people with who you have an existing business relationship, which includes not only your customers, but anyone who made an inquiry or application to your business in the previous 6 months. You can also email anyone whose email address is publicly available. So if you pull a prospect's email address off their website, you should be good. All that said, I'm not a legal authority on this issue. If you're worried about how CASL might affect your email marketing practices, I recommend you speak with a lawyer or other professional advisor to find out what it means to you. Okay, this brings me to step 3. Develop your emails in advance. Once you know how many emails you need, your next step is to write them. And you want to do this in advance because they need to be ready to send on the schedule you set. Finally, step 4, follow email best practices. There are 9 best practices I want to cover with you today. So best practice number 1, subject lines. First off, you don't want to make them too short. A subject line should be sufficiently descriptive to give recipients a clue about why you're communicating with them. Adestra Research did a huge subject line study last year to figure out which ones pull best in different circumstances. For B2B emails, for instance, they found that monetary phrases work well, so words like turnover, revenue, or profit. Words to avoid would be B2B, business, or industry. Why? Like I mentioned earlier, benefits impel response, not statements. When you offer to help a company reduce employee churn, improve its margins, or realize greater profitability, your audience will be more receptive. Next, subject lines that include numbers tend to work really well. So an email that features 7 tips for reducing costs in a volatile economy, or 5 ways to improve collaboration, tend to pull. Next, you may want to consider adding a time or a quantity limit. Ultimately, people don't want to miss out on something, and if they think that it's going to expire, they're more likely to take action. So in practice, it might look something like this. Only 4 more days to get a front row seat to hear whatever great speaker live, or only 24 spots left for our after-hours party. Get yours now. What you're trying to do is create some urgency around your message. Best practice 2, salutations. This one is short and sweet. As much as possible, use a first name. In our experience, emails without personalization generate 50% less response than those that include a name. Best practice 3, word counts. Who here is wondering if length really matters? Because when it comes to emails, I'm pleased to tell you that it's not really that important. There's a tendency for us to prefer shorter emails because, let's face it, no one has time to read what we're writing. But if you have something of real value to say that needs a few more words, use the extra words. If you don't, your readers may not understand why you're communicating with them in the first place. So no, do not write a book. But yes, if you need 3 paragraphs instead of 2 or 5 instead of 3, go for it. Number 4, frequency of communication. Okay, I talked about this a little earlier, so as you may have guessed, it's my experience that frequent communication is best. Again, I know people worry about alienating their audience, and it is fair to say that you don't want to become a virtual stalker. But there are just tons of benefits to staying top of mind from a business perspective, and you can't do that if you aren't in regular communication. Best practice 5, images and design. Okay, I'm here to talk about writing emails, not designing them, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Suffice it to say that people are often attracted to the idea of including a screenshot or some other image in their email communications. While there's nothing inherently wrong with this practice, you need to make sure your email is professionally designed and coded to optimize the use of images if you're using them. Otherwise, pictures just take too long to load, which means you may lose people before the email even comes through. And, as most of you are likely aware, most email programs today strip out images anyhow. So all your recipients end up seeing is a bunch of code, which isn't the most welcoming message. So rather than investing time in designing an easy-to-download HTML email, you might want to consider just using built-in links in a regular text email. So yes, by all means include links to a specific landing page or blog post. As a quick aside though, what you don't want to do is include a whole whack of links. Emails, by their very nature, are intended to be focused communications that cover one key topic or message. So you should include a link only to one featured page. You can include that same link more than once in your email if the copy is long, but don't include a bunch of links to different locations. Not only is it confusing, but it messes up your testing. Best practice 5, the voice. Write the way you speak. So that means you should sound like you're having a personal conversation, not like you're writing to a list. You're trying to establish a relationship, so don't be afraid to let your personality come through. All while staying professional, of course. There is a line you don't want to cross. You're not having a casual conversation with your friends, so you still want it to sound like business language, but there's nothing wrong with showing that you have a personality. Another pointer is use active language. So this means avoiding the past tense and writing in the present tense. Here's a litmus test to see how you're doing. If your sentences frequently contain words like is and are, consider rewriting the sentence. I'm not suggesting that you avoid these words entirely. Just use them judiciously wherever possible. Next is a sign-off. Make sure you sign your emails personally. Ideally, the sign-off should match the outgoing email address, and you should include your full name and your phone number at the bottom. I know it sounds obvious, but when we get into ongoing communications with people, we sometimes leave those elements off. It's a good practice to keep them in. The actual sign-off itself should be informal too, and you can change it up. So sometimes you might say best regards, or you can say thanks, or looking forward to speak with you, or speak soon. You want to play with it, but when you come up with one that sounds like you, hang with it. All right, best practice 8, test. There's a couple of different kinds of testing that I want to talk about here. So the first kind of testing is the actual email itself. You want to start by sending a test email to an internal group before you send it off to clients or prospects. They may have feedback you want to incorporate, or they might let you know that the graphics are messed up or that you misspelled something. Because lots of people read emails on mobile devices, you also want to make sure your email is compatible with different mobile devices. For instance, if your phone number is embedded in an image or it appears as a graphic, mobile users can't click on it to call you. So you'll probably prefer to make sure your phone number appears as text, so recipients get an automatic hyperlink. Another kind of testing is to test the different elements of your email message to see which ones work best. So this isn't an exact science. Let's say you come up with 3 different subject lines for 3 different events you're inviting people to attend. What you want to do is measure the response rate for each event. You might find that one of your 3 subject lines garners better response than the other 2. If that's the case, try to use the subject line that received the most response in future emails as well. If you do this with different elements of your email, like the body copy or any offers you include, you'll eventually be able to pick the elements that perform best for any particular email you send out. All right, best practice 9, the message. There is method to my madness here. I haven't listed the message last because it's least important, because it's the element of your email I'm going to spend a little more time on. So, first off, your email should contain one clear message, not try to cover 17 things at once. Your aim is to tell a cohesive story, not dilute your message. Second, if you're not sure how to get started, I generally advise you to just do a brain dump. Write fast. Pretend the phone just rang and you have 3 minutes to tell your prospect what you need to say, except write it down instead of saying it. Or say it out loud and write it down at the same time. I can assure you a lot of writers talk out loud to themselves. It's why we're often avoided in social settings. 3, use the word you. Use it more than the word we. While sometimes people may want to hear about your products and services, more often they just want to know how their own problems are going to be solved. So mention the challenges you think they're facing in your email intros, and only then explain how you might be able to help them resolve those challenges. Finally, include benefits. Rather than simply asking people to sign up to your e-newsletter, for instance, explain why they should. What's good about it? Why is it better than the competition's? What are they going to get out of it? So to put this in context, I'd like to take a look at how this actually works in practice. Hang on. Here is actual copy from an event invitation we developed a few years ago. So I'm going to break it down with you. We start out with a request. So please join us at this location by this date. And it includes a please. Okay? Next, we highlight the benefits. So make new connections, win some prizes, and meet our surprise guests. Next, we build excitement. So this is an exclusive invitation. You don't want to miss it. There's hockey legends on hand, and there's other planned surprises. Finally, we create urgency. Sign up early this year because there's limited spaces, and you need to reserve your spot by a specific date. So this particular email was part of a larger campaign designed to drive attendance to this company's annual golf event. What's important to understand, though, is that this type of approach can apply to any type of event, whether it's an annual conference or a small seminar at your office, or even an invitation to an online event like a webinar. While you obviously would customize the copy to reflect your event, the key here is to include the main elements we've identified. So in virtually every type of invitation email, you want to include a request, list the benefits of attending, build some excitement around why people should attend, and create some urgency for them to sign up. Here's another example. This was an email sent by a fax technology company to generate new leads. We begin here with a soft introduction to the company. So yes, we are saying what they do, but we're doing it in a way that focuses on our audience's primary interests. So we're saying companies that rely on faxing to transmit secure and critical information know it's important to have advanced, powerful, integrated, and supported fax technology. Obviously, this speaks to what the customer does, but it speaks to it in a way that reflects customer benefits. All right, next what we do is we highlight those benefits. So with this type of technology, you're going to eliminate the need for manual fax machines, you efficiently deliver fax information to email inboxes, and you get unlimited quality technical support and 24/7 access. Third, we make it clear that we understand the prospect's challenges. So that's what these bullet points are. Are they wasting their time and money on their current solution? Are they getting the most out of their fax software? Fourth, we include an offer. So in this case, the offer was a free assessment of the fax infrastructure. And what the offer is an enticement to get people interested in working with you. Finally, once again, you create urgency. So we're saying, if you ignore this, you're going to dull your competitive edge, so you need to act now. Now, to be honest, we probably could have pumped up the urgency of this particular email if we included an act by date for the free assessment, so people would know that they were working against a deadline. Okay, so once again, for this kind of email where you're trying to generate leads, you need to customize the copy to your specific business, but you want to include the elements we've identified. As I noted, those would be a soft introduction that focuses on why prospects would be interested in your products or services, a list of the benefits of working with you, an indication that you understand your prospect's challenges, and an offer where you create some urgency around responding. When it comes to lead generation emails, there's another important element, which is to test the various parts of the email. And I mentioned this earlier in our talk, in fact. So, for instance, if we change out the subject line without changing any of the body copy, you can start to determine which subject lines garner the best response. You do that by perhaps splitting your list. So you'd send an email with one subject line to, say, 100 recipients, and an email with a different subject line to another 100 recipients. The same applies to your offer, which, by the way, you wouldn't test at the same time as you test your headline. A cardinal rule here is that you should only be testing one element of an email at a time. That way you control the variables so you know which elements are influencing action. In this campaign, for instance, we tested both the subject line and the offer to come up with the best combination. Now, of course, this just gives you a taste of the types of emails that you may need to create. In our experience, there are at least 5 categories of emails that drive business communications. Those include emails to invite people to events like conferences, trade shows, breakfast series, or webinars, emails requesting people to download a report, a survey, an article, emails asking people to sign up to a blog, a newsletter, a report series, monthly analysis, or any other type of subscription, emails designed to share unsolicited education, such as technical support offers, free apps or demos, or third-party content, and cold emails, which are those designed to generate new leads. It is those types of emails that we talk about in the ebook we've developed called Email Strategies for the Content Age. In that ebook, we explain the role email plays in business communications. We set out 13 different email approaches. We explain the 4 key steps to crafting an effective email, and we discuss strategies for developing the 5 types of emails I just listed here. We also included a whole load of additional real-world email examples that we developed for our major global clients, and that you can adapt to your use as part of your own email campaigns. These are proven samples that our clients have successfully used in actual email marketing campaigns. We included them because you and I know that while theory is nice, examples of how to do it in practice are a lot better. Our clients literally paid thousands of dollars to have us craft those emails for them, but for a limited time we're actually making them available for $147. If you take a look at the URL on the screen, that's where you can find more information about this ebook. After the call, we're also going to follow up with an email link that includes this link, plus any other information you can use going forward. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. I'd like to thank SOHO again for hosting me and pass the mic back to Mo.
Well, thank you very much, Aviva, on behalf of SOHO and all the attendees. That was a great presentation.
Thanks so much, Mo.
No problem. Before we go to the audience questions, can I ask you to clarify how the offer actually works? Because we've arranged some preferential pricing for all the SOHO members and all the people on this webinar.
Yeah, sorry, Mo, I didn't explain this. This ebook is normally priced at $197, but we've reduced our cost by $50 for the webinar attendees and for members of SOHO. So until March 20th, the price is $147.
That's a great price. Why would somebody pay for something like this when there's so much content and information on the internet for free?
Yeah, you know what? You can definitely find information online about email writing best practices, but as you and I both know, online research is often more time-consuming than we plan. I would imagine you'd spend more than $147 worth of your time to pull a lot of this information together. More critically, though, there's information in this ebook that you simply can't find anywhere online.
That totally makes sense for sure.
Yeah, no, so some of the things we included would be like actual email samples that we developed for our major clients to help them run their email marketing campaigns. Because these emails are road tested, it means you can use them as precedents to develop your own email campaigns right away. So you have a foundation to create effective emails from the get-go. I swear to you, if you went online to find a freelance writer, you'd pay at least this amount for just one email, and it won't be one that's been proven to work.
Thank you again so much, Aviva. I believe there's some questions being posted by the attendees. I'd like to introduce everyone to Danielle from SOHO. She's our events guru, and she's all the behind-the-scenes work, and she's going to help Aviva with the Q&A and facilitate that. Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks, Mo. I think we have time for a few questions here, so I'll read out some that we've received. We've got one here from Rachel. Rachel asks, you said something about testing headlines and other elements of the email. How big does your list have to be to test stuff?
All right. So, I mean, obviously, the bigger your list is, the better your testing results are going to be. But even if your list is like only 100 people, you can still split test it by splitting it into 2 groups of, say, 20. And once you see which headline pulls best, you send the best headline to the remaining 60 people in your group. You can do that for other elements of the email as well. Although if you're testing an offer, the time it takes to test might take longer because you'll want to wait for people to respond to your offer for as long as it's available. So in that case, I'd probably recommend that you just split your group of 100 into 2 groups of 50 and then see which offer performs best over time. Then once you know, you can make the better performing offer available to your larger list in future emails. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, I think we only have time for one last question. Brian asks, what kinds of results have your clients gotten from your campaigns?
Yeah, okay. We get this question a fair amount. Hang on, because I do have some metrics here. Just give me a minute. Okay, while I'm looking for this, I can tell you, right, like we recently did a webinar email for a company. Okay, hang on. And they were targeting a certain number of attendees, and we quite literally quadrupled that amount of attendees with the emails we were doing. All right, some other campaigns that we've done, we did a series of lead gen emails that were backed by a free white paper, and that campaign saw our client get more than 500 new opt-in requests, both through their online subscriptions and through their call center. And I know for a fact that one of those call center leads generated $175,000 in revenue from an existing account. In another case, in some of the lead gen emails that we've actually shared, they played a role in helping to generate literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional business for one of our clients. Danielle, I guess we're out of time?
Yeah, that's it for now.
Okay, not a problem. So I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank everyone on behalf of both SOHO and AR Communications for attending this webinar today. What we're going to try to do, I guess, is take a look at some of the additional questions we got after the webinar, and I can perhaps send you some answers in the next couple of days. In any event, we're going to be sending you a summary of the things we talked about today, as well as more information about our ebook. Thank you all so much for attending. Have a great rest of the day.